Meet your deadlines every time without having to rely on willpower or discipline. Keep watching. This is Life Mastery Gym. I'm Damon, and I teach people just like you cutting-edge NLP processes and techniques so that you can master your life and take charge of your destiny. So if that sounds good, make sure you click that subscribe button so that you can get these videos on a regular basis. So willpower, or trying to use willpower or self-discipline to try to meet your deadlines, is actually probably what's keeping you from meeting your deadlines. So by the end of this video, you're going to know how to throw that out and have a much more fluid and easier way to meet your deadlines. Now, I've been studying NLP for several years. I've had to work out a lot of my own issues around meeting deadlines and wrestling with discipline and willpower, and I've helped hundreds of clients work through this so that meeting deadlines is not even an issue anymore. First of all, discipline and willpower implies that you have to push against some resistance, that you have to work through doing something you don't really want to do. And there's always this sort of friction. And the bottom line is that with willpower and self-discipline, they're kind of like a muscle. They're kind of like strength. You can build it up, but they are finite. They will give out at a certain point. You can always find weight, in other words, that you can't lift. It doesn't matter how strong you become. And if you're using willpower and discipline, it's working for you, and it is more of a crutch. And again, you're constantly creating that friction. You're constantly pushing against something in order to get it done. At some point, it's going to give out because it is limited. What's not limited is your desire. You're going to have desire. It's always going to be there. So in NLP, what we do is we look at what's already working well. We model it, and then we apply that model to what's not working well. So in this case, you're not meeting your deadlines, or if you are, you barely are meeting your deadlines, and it's causing you a lot of suffering or stress. And so we don't want to do that. Now, isn't it interesting that if you are chronically late meeting your deadlines, how consistent you are about doing that? So the first question to ask yourself, how is it you're so consistent about being late? How is it that you're so consistent about not meeting your deadlines? Or if you are meeting your deadlines, but it's always at the last minute, how is it you're so consistent with doing that? Doesn't that sound like kind of like what you would like to be, just meeting the deadline instead? But it's that consistency that tells us, or should tell you, that you have a system in place that is making this happen consistently. So there's already a successful system in there. It's just not doing what it is you want it to do. So a lot of times people think that they're sloppy, that things are too random, that they're not very organized. But in actuality, no, it's that setup, that system, that organization that consistently produces the same result that is actually quite successful. So the idea here is, well, how do you take that and then apply it more toward what it is that you want? The next step is figuring out what is holding that system in place, the system that is consistently making you late or consistently pushing things to the last minute. What is it that is valuable about being late? Now, I know that sounds unusual because we don't think about it like that, because consciously you don't value this because it's causing you a lot of stress. But actually, unconsciously, there is a part of you that is attempting to fulfill some sort of value, or it could be more than one value, with this strategy of being late. So you want to find out what that is. This is the only way you're going to integrate this resistance. We don't want to push resistance away, what we call resistance. In fact, you can start looking at resistance in a whole new way. Resistance is not something that's trying to stop you necessarily. It's actually a part of you that's trying to do something valuable for you. It's trying to fulfill a value or a set of values.
It's just a strategy that's not working very well, or it may be an old strategy. I've done videos on values elicitations, and I will link one here. And you can also, if you look in the description, there are more links to other videos. It is worth your time to drill down on a good values elicitation. I use values elicitations for everything that I do. Anytime I want to start something new, anytime I encounter resistance, anytime I'm not sure about something, I do a values elicitation. When I'm coaching clients, the first thing I do with a client is elicit their values, because it's not on the surface. What you think you want on the surface is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more that goes so much deeper. And so you need to know what that is. And that includes resistance, or what even people call self-sabotage. There is an underlying value there that is trying to be fulfilled. And when you can understand what that is, then you can integrate it. Without understanding what that value is, you can't integrate it into what it is you want overall. So take the time to elicit the value of being late. Now, what does this do for me? Get in touch with that part of you that's responsible for that. Welcome it and ask it, what is it doing for you in a positive way? By the way, a positive intent is the same thing as a value. So intention and value, basically the same thing. So you go to that part and I would work this out on paper and say, okay, what is it, this part of me, and you can actually imagine you're talking to it and say, what is it you're trying to do for me in a positive way? And then once you get that answer, then you go even further and you say, well, what's important about that? Or what does that do for me? And just keep doing that until you elicit these really high level values. They're these really high level and tangible values like happiness, peace, love, joy. That's when you know you're hitting the good stuff. And then you'll want to do a values elicitation on meeting your deadlines. So what's important about meeting your deadlines? And then once you get that answer, say, okay, well, what will this do for me? And keep going down that line of questioning. Like I said, you check that other video where I go more in depth with this. Once you have chunked up to these higher values on either side, the part of you that's resisting and the part of you that wants to meet the deadlines, you're going to start to find a lot of common values. Why is that? Because you're one whole human being. And actually, though some of your parts might seem to be in opposition to each other, you actually want your whole being wants to function together harmoniously, peacefully. We're hardwired to do that. It's just that there's obstacles that get in our way internally. And one way you can work that out is by doing a values elicitation on either side, realizing that your highest values work very well together. This is also a conflict integration. And so you start figuring out, okay, between the two parts, you negotiate, how can I get all my values met with both parts? How can this part that seems to be resisting meeting the deadlines, how can that be a part of, how can that become a new alliance and work together, conscious and unconscious working together to meet those deadlines, and making sure that whatever this part is trying to fulfill, whatever value or values this part is trying to fulfill, that those values get fulfilled as well. Once you merge these two and once you integrate these two, you will be firing on all cylinders, moving toward what it is that you want, coming from a place of wholeness rather than being divided and trying to will your way or discipline your way to getting what you consciously want. Now, another great technique to use for something like this is mapping across. So what is it that you do consistently? You probably don't even think about it as being a deadline, because as soon as you think of something as being a deadline, you go, I don't know if I want to do that. That's not fun. I want to go distract myself with something else. So what is it, something that you do probably daily that does not take willpower, that does not take self-discipline, and you don't really see it as a deadline? It's just something you consistently do. What I like to suggest to clients is, I will ask them, I'll say, do you brush your teeth every morning? And especially the ones who are dealing with procrastinating and not meeting their deadlines. I'll say, do you brush your teeth every morning? And they'll say, well, of course. I'll say, well, how do you get the discipline and the willpower to do that every single morning, year after year? I mean, you've been doing this since you were a child. How do you muster that discipline? How do you muster that motivation? And they say, well, I don't really think about it. I just do it because I already know that I want to keep my teeth and I want my teeth to be clean. And so what they're telling me, what they're saying basically is, they've already made a commitment to this. They already know what they value in this. And there is no resistance because their whole entire being wants good breath, wants clean teeth, doesn't want their teeth to rot and fall out. So it's quite natural. So wouldn't you like to be able to meet your deadlines that easily, where it's not something you think about, it's not something you have to will yourself to do or motivate yourself to do, you just naturally do it. So there's a process called mapping across, and once again, yes, I have done a video on mapping across. You will find that link in the description. I'll link it to the video too. And it's worth your time drilling down on this process. It's a process it's one of those early NLP processes that you find throughout almost every process. Not every process, but a lot of processes in NLP, even the advanced ones. Mapping across is inescapable because it's a part of the way that we model in NLP. And the way that we usually do mapping across, not the only way, but the way that we usually do it is using submodalities. So when you think about brushing your teeth, what do you see? And where is the location of that image or of that movie? So a lot of us, especially the visual people, will actually see an image of themselves brushing their teeth, or they may see a movie of themselves brushing their teeth. And that visual actually has a location. Now, I'll ask people all the time, I'll say, where do you see that? And they say, well, in my bathroom. And I'm like, okay, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, where in your personal space is that image or movie positioned? And another way of asking it is just saying, well, point to where you're seeing that. And I can usually tell by where their eyes go anyway. And I'll say, well, I saw your eyes go here, so I think that's over there. And they'll say, no, I was looking at the wall. No. Yes, your eyes may have been set on the wall, but you're having internal images. And when you have internal images, they always have a location. So let's say I see myself brushing my teeth right here. And then I will ask them, well, okay, well, where do you see yourself not meeting your deadlines? Like how do you know that even happens? And so that, again, it's usually an image, but of course you can be very auditory or kinesthetic, and you might get something else. And don't say it's just a thought. You don't just have a thought. A thought, how would you know if you're having a thought? The only way you can know that you're having a thought is by some sort of sensory-based experiences happening. Meaning you're seeing something, you're hearing something, you're feeling something, or a combination of two of those or three of those. So let's say I see myself being or procrastinating and not meeting my deadlines, and that image is right here. Now, I want to take note of some other submodalities. I want to take note of, well, how rich are the colors? How light or dark is this image compared to the one of me brushing my teeth? You're going to notice a lot of little differences. This picture might be very small. This picture might be very big. This one might be a movie, and this one's a still image. So you want to take note of all these differences. In fact, I would also recommend that you write them down. So what you can do then is you can look at this image and look at this image and move this image into the location here and give the image of you procrastinating all the attributes of the new image, and then change what you're doing from procrastinating to doing the things that you need to do to meet your deadlines while giving it all those submodalities, all those distinctions. So you're taking something that you're very consistent about, that you do consistently, brushing your teeth, and you're giving this new behavior all of these attributes, whatever the colors are, whatever the size of the image is there sound or is there no sound? Is it a movie? Is it a still image? And so now here you will see yourself meeting your deadlines, and this will be quite amazing. Now, it is possible that you will experience resistance to this because this was over here for a reason. And again, you were not meeting your deadlines for a particular reason. But if you've done a values elicitation and you clearly understand the intention and you've resolved that conflict, this should stay. There shouldn't be any resistance. But if there is, then you do a values elicitation on that resistance and then integrate those values into this. And then this should stay, and it should be a permanent change. And then see what happens from there. If you want to take this deeper and you want to take this even further, because let's be honest, what we're really talking about here is behavioral. But what really controls behavior? Well, your identity
is in charge of your behavior. Who you believe yourself to be informs what you will do, who you will become into the future, and what will you have. So if you want to accomplish a lot, or you have things that you want to do, and you have things that you want to create in your life, like a wonderful life, you have to go to the identity level to do that. And so what I'm offering is a free assessment. It's also in the description right down below. You just click that link, it'll bring you to a page where you answer some questions, and then it puts together the assessment. And we take it one area of life at a time. So you focus on the area of life that you most want to create something, become something, change, achieve some sort of goal. And we start there. You answer those questions, you get the assessment, and it'll help clear the way for you to start moving in that direction. If you like this video, make sure you click that thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the bell so you'll get these videos on a regular basis. If you know of a friend or a family member who you think would benefit from this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.